What's poppin', yo? Drake really got destroyed in a completely new way in this Pusha T interview that he did with GQ. And Pusha T did it in one of the classiest ways I've seen. Now, Pusha T reunited with his brother Malice, who were originally the Clipse. Pusha T came into the game as a duo with his brother Malice, and their first project was Lord Willin', and then they had a mixtape run after that. They've always had label issues, and they were never big sellers. They also came into the game with Pusha T. They're from Northern Virginia. And then after that, after a while, Malice decided to quit rapping. He got very religious. He renewed his faith, and he just quit music. And that's when Pusha T went solo, and he started to have his own solo career, started rolling around with Ye More, Good Music era, all of that. So it's been... Well, No Malice, he came back as No Malice, came back a while back, maybe 2016, 17, if I recall correctly, maybe even 18. But now he's fully back with his brother, and they're coming back with an album, this is just historical. I'm so happy for this. I'm so excited for this. I'm not going to gas it up like, yo, it's returning the feeling. But for the people that grew up on really like Hell Hath No Fury, things like that, you know this is like wipes a tear from the side of your eye type of moment. But Kendrick Lamar is a feature on this album. And if you guys were living under some sort of rock, you know the back and forth that Pusha T had with Def Jam. Or the back and forth that Pusha T had with Drake. Pusha T winning the beef overall and really getting a significant boost from it, dropping great albums after, man. Honestly, I believe that album should have won the Grammy, either that or Astroworld, but they didn't because Cardi B robbed them. But then he was signed to Def Jam, so he was Good Music, but he was individually signed to Def Jam. And when he was trying to drop this album, Def Jam wasn't really letting it rock, and this was last summer that they were trying to drop the album. And then they said that the label loved the album, but when Kendrick Lamar dropped his verse on Chains and Whips, the final version of the song that was teased at the LV Runway show by Pharrell, and unfortunately, they didn't really mess with that. So what happened was there was a lawsuit that was going on from with UMG and Drake. So Drake is suing UMG. This is still ongoing. Def Jam is under Universal, and they're saying, like this article, this interviewer, and Pusha T, they're saying that Kendrick's verse really couldn't be perceived as a shot or even subliminal to Drake, yet they wanted it censored in the beginning. So Pusha T says, they wanted me to ask Kendrick to censor his verse, which of course I was never doing. And then they wanted me to take the record off. And so after a month of not doing it, Steve Gawley, the lawyer over there, was like, we'll just drop the clips. But that can't work because I'm still there, solo. But if you let us all go, and then Def Jam agreed to release the clips and drop Pusha T. And now Pusha T was a solo artist, and they could look for another label that was willing to distribute this album. And they said they had a lot of music as well. He says it felt good to even see how other labels were buying for the project. And they ended up with none other than Roc Nation. Now, why did this happen at Def Jam? Well, I'm pretty sure that they want to avoid anything that could be used as material for Drake's lawsuit. Keep in mind, like Drake is naming people like I'm Dante and Zeus in his lawsuit. So another album being released with Kendrick Lamar on it, we know what that looks like. But earlier this year, it was announced that there would be a roll-up of a bunch of different East Coast labels that would be under one umbrella now that was still under UMG. So there are multiple, like for example, Republic Records, this is where Drake is on, Mercury Records, Island Records, and Def Jam Records. It used to be Island Def Jam, and then they separated a while back. And then now it's these four, also Casablanca Records and Imperial Music. So they rolled up all of these labels into something that would be called Republic Corps. And it says in this article by Music Business Worldwide, it said, according to an official announcement, as part of this new collective, each individual label maintains and operates with full independence and creative autonomy. So you would think that, well, creative autonomy and full independence, they should be allowed to put that song out if they wanted to. It doesn't harm anybody else. Well, it's not that it does. Even if it did harm anybody else, who cares? However, I'm guessing creative autonomy is different from the bottom line because harming another artist's image, even though they are saying that that's not the case with this song with Pusha T and Kendrick Lamar. But there is something to Republic Corpse, which Cash Money had to deal with, and their biggest artists are Taylor Swift. Republic is like a gigantic, it's a behemoth under UMG. You've got The Weeknd on there. You've got Taylor Swift on there. You've got Ariana Grande on there. And you've got Drake on there. I think you got Nicki Minaj on there as well. So with that, I don't think it's crazy to assume that from the top down, they were like, yo, this doesn't look that great. And I don't know if Republic Corpse happened after Pusha T was let go. I'm guessing that they were still in the midst of negotiating this happening and it was being talked about. So they just said like, yo, we might as well just get rid of these guys while we're still negotiating this roll up and not have to deal with this, like the lawyer said. However, it is fishy that from every other record label, they end up at Roc Nation. Now, what type of cachet does Roc Nation have as a record label for distributing or bringing up artists in the past 10 years? Who do we know that's been on Roc Nation? Vic Mensa? Like what's Vic Mensa? Ever since we haven't seen Vic Mensa go up since he signed to Roc Nation. That's just one example. Who else? You could say like Uzi Meg, but Uzi Meg were already lit before they got to Roc Nation. And maybe that's just what they're doing. They're able to like get deals. Now I know Roc Nation management, they're able to get deals, but they're saying that they shop the album here. So this is like a record label type of situation, not just management. It may be management too. I'm not entirely sure. But Jay-Z, there's a contentious, not battle, but you could call it a Cold War between Jay-Z, Roc Nation, and Drake. Keep in mind, there's always been that element of competition as rappers and who's the GOAT. Also, though, Roc Nation's biggest enemy is Tory Lanez, who has sent multiple shots at the CEO at Roc Nation, his father as well. And Drake has publicly shown support for Tory Lanez on more than one occasion in the past couple of years. Jay-Z clearly isn't going to be too happy with that. So him bringing Pusha T under him, come on now. Like that's not just a coincidence. Granted, I do think Jay-Z respects Pusha T as a rapper, but also Jay-Z's picking up Pusha T after Pusha T just split with Ye, and they're going at it. Like, that's two birds, one stone, if you want to call it that. So Drake is really getting underground subliminal shots with this, as is Ye, because keep in mind, Ye is like now trying to grovel and apologize to Jay-Z. I will say this, Jay will never, ever, ever, ever in life be standing next to Ye again. I'm willing to bet on that. And I don't think, and I will be one of, I will actually be in awe and in shock. Like Ye has to do something miraculous for that to happen that would be beneficial to Jay. And I don't think Ye benefits Jay in any type of way anymore. And Jay is very Machiavellian. And he insulted him on another level. However, how Drake gets shots at this is not only through Pusha signing to Roc Nation, but he's not even trying to address anything. And when he's asked about it in the interview, of course, because this was a pivotal mark in Pusha T's career, with Drake asking him to get back into it multiple times since 2023. The Pharrell jewelry pieces, where he made a music video with them. But the thing is, and also on For All the Dogs, but the thing is, Pusha T knows when to step away. And the thing is, Drake is the one that stepped away from the beef. So he fell back. Pusha took the W, and he knew just to chill. And the interviewer says he asked him a similar question years ago, and Pusha T said he couldn't care. And then he says, I quote, "I think after everything that had been done, I don't think there was ever anything subliminal to be said ever again in life. Not only just musically. Like, bro, I actually was in Canada. I actually had a show and made it home. So I can't pay attention to none of that. I did the dance for real, not to come back and tiptoe around anything." And they asked him, so would you engage if he went in, like fully in on you? And he said, man, I would only engage again if I felt like it. Which is just like, it's kind of flicking him away like this ant that's crawling on your skin. You're like, man, I'll see about it if I care. Which Pusha T's beyond that. Now, he's not bigger than Drake, but I think it's respectable for him to not try to latch onto this. And when giving his comments on the beef and how he felt about the results of said beef with Kendrick Lamar being able to blow up after, he said, nah, I feel like everything happened the way it was supposed to happen. I had my own vision and my own intent in everything that I did during that time, and I did everything I wanted to do. There was nothing that I felt slighted about in watching anything last year. It was good to watch. I knew where it was going. I knew how it was going to play out. And it did. And he's talking about how their beef got cut short by Jay Prince coming in and Drake falling back. But he does say about the UMG lawsuit, I will say this. If Drake's adamant to have a lawsuit, it's only because he knows all the things that they did to suppress everything that was happening around Adidon and the verses and the records and things that were happening back then. And if you think about it, there was a lot of stuff being done behind the scenes to hold Drake back. Like, for instance, you guys remember when he was supposed to have a verse on the Pop Smoke song with Young Thug. And then Young Thug came out and said that he didn't want to be on a song with Pusha T where he was dissing Drake because Young Thug is locked in with Drake. So Pusha T gets pulled off of that. He loses that opportunity. And then also Maybach Music 6, there was like that diss that he dropped on there. But he believes that the label machine, UMG as a whole, held back certain things from Pusha T as to allowed him to not succeed. So they stifled Pusha T. And Drake knows that they stifled Pusha T, and he was probably with them stifling Pusha T. And this is an argument that not many people made when we've been talking about Drake coming at UMG. Like, the argument that most make is that, like, yo, Drake, they were doing all this stuff for you to gas your songs like they did for Back to Back, but also like they did for Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us. And you're complaining about that, but nobody talks about the ability to stifle songs and to really not let them do what they would have done otherwise. Like, Story of Adidon is quite stifled. Like, that song it was only on World Star at the time. It had limited distribution. This was a transitionary period. Like, this was before the TikTok era where things like could catch on fire and where the internet was less connected than it is right now. And I mean, social apps, like, things spread so quickly now, and they fade just as quickly, but the overall reach is bigger than it was in 2018. And Story of Adidon, it didn't get that. And then Pusha T says, I don't rate him no more. And he's talking about, like, the suing stuff. The suing thing is bigger than some rap-ish. I just don't rate you. Damn. It's like, it just kind of cheapens the art of it once we got to have real questions about suing and litigation. Like, what? For this? And to be fair, for this being accused of, like, messing with kids, like, yeah, for this, I think that's fair. Well, I'm not saying that I agree with Drake suing. I think that's punk's activity. But for him to just say, like, oh, for this, as if it's just like some expose or something that's not the worst accusation that you could possibly have, let's not diminish how bad of a diss and how many people believed what Kendrick Lamar was dropping on that track. We're not going to diminish that. But this also shows the brilliance of Pusha T in his career, where he's not somebody that wants to be attached to a beef. And Kendrick Lamar should be taking notes from this, right? Like, Kendrick Lamar's GNX, he didn't really have much disses on there. I think, man, there are going to be bars that are going to be misinterpreted as Drake disses on this song just because of the background of what happened. And who knows if Kendrick talks about this in a new song. Like, for example, if Kendrick drops some bars talking about this song getting blocked and stifled by Drake, which I totally believe because they were on the same label. Now, UMG, they have Interscope and Republic, and he was saying he was suing UMG because they gassed up Kendrick's song, but they also had Drake on Republic and Def Jam with Pusha T on Def Jam. And you don't think it makes more sense that they would stifle an artist like Pusha T, who they know is never going to be a top-selling artist, versus Drake, who is their top-selling rapper at the time? Like 2018 Drake, it was unreal the run that he was going on. He was like king of streaming at that point. So that's where I think it's like sucker stuff. And where Kendrick Lamar might drop some bars in the future song, I don't know. But he's going to have to detach himself from this beef eventually and just position it as Drake is just beneath him. Although Drake is like still dropping hits. Pusha T, I like that he separated himself because he's such a small artist in relation to either of these guys that being the guy that beefed with Drake is not something that he wants on his jacket. Even though he won, he wants to be able to have his music judged for what it is. And he did that with It's Almost Dry. Like, that was great. And in particular, when it comes to the Clipse, which is a whole separate entity from Pusha T himself, he's like, yo, this is me and my brother. This has nothing to do with Drake. And we know that Drake is a Clipse fan. Like, come on now. I do think they're going to drop some bars because it's going to get a lot of press. It's good promo where people will try to interpret it as Drake disses, even from Pusha T. And I don't think they will be. Even like this article is an example. But if I had to guess, we would get some music like that as well. But I like the direction that Pusha T is moving in. It's mature. It's methodical. And I would say Kendrick Lamar has more of a shelf life to be able to do this back and forth, because it's mutually beneficial for Drake and Kendrick Lamar, especially when the whole like PDF thing isn't going on. Because, well, I wouldn't say it's mutually beneficial. No, it's just beneficial for Kendrick Lamar right now. And there's no reason why he should stop. But he's handling it perfectly as well. But I'm interested to, if I could possibly know the conversations that these guys had about this situation, which is something that we will never know. But let me know what y'all think in the comments. Like and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. And I'm see y'all on the next one.